convertible now.
We're ready to make a deal.
So how much?
I wouldn't sell for less than $3 million.
Everyone wants to make a lot of money, and these items on Pawn Stars have shown just how much you can make from some rare items. These are some of the most expensive items from Pawn Stars. If there's one thing this car isn't short on, it's style. Back in Season 4, a gentleman by the name of Uncle Phil showed up at the gold and silver pawn shop looking to sell his 1932 Lincoln Roadster. The stunning vehicle has 150 horsepower V12 engine, making it one of the fastest cars of its time, and an opulence that is totally out of place considering it was manufactured during the Great Depression. Harrison states that the Roadster in mint condition could fetch as high as $170,000 at an auction. However, seeing as how this one has a few imperfections, Harrison managed to get the owner to part with it for $95,000, $5,000 less than what he'd originally wanted. Not bad for a badass ride like this. Unlike many of the other items on the list, we never got to see the former New England Patriots cornerback Brock Williams walk into the world-famous gold and silver pawn shop, Super Bowl ring in hand. However, that hasn't stopped Rick Harrison from promoting the impressive item to drum up business for his store. The story goes that Williams pawned the ring, losing ownership when he defaulted on the loan, only for Harrison and company to forget about it. That is until Harrison was going through his pawned inventory and rediscovered it. The ring has a mind-boggling 143 diamonds and is made from 14 karat white gold, placing its value at roughly $25,000. However, due to Harrison's affinity for the ring and its sports legend background, its current price tag is $100,000.
One of the players came in here a few years ago, and I bought it off him. Up until 2001, this was the biggest Super Bowl ring made.
Back in Season 6, a customer walked into the Harrison boys pawn shop lugging a trolley loaded with what he described as a whole lot of silver. The massive collection of silver had been bought years earlier when its value was much lower. They say patience is a virtue, but in this case, patience netted the owner a whopping $111,000. As a longtime collector of the precious raw material, the old man was particularly excited by the haul, leaping out of his chair to inspect it. Despite asking for $115,000, the owner wasn't exactly thrilled at the prospect of having to transport all that silver someplace else, so he happily accepted Rick's offer.
All right, it's a deal, 111.
I'm really glad my dad taught me to invest, because today I'm walking out with over $100,000.
There's a small handful of jobs other than historian, museum curator, or celebrity pawn shop owner where assessing centuries-old Roman coins is part of your regular routine. Minted in the years following the death of Julius Caesar, the coin features a portrait of Brutus, the Roman senator who organized the infamous assassination of the Ides of March, making it one of the rarest coins to ever grace the counter of the gold and silver pawn shop. While the owner asked for $150,000 and Rick's professional coin appraiser valued it between $125,000 and $150,000, the best Rick could do was $110,000. In the end, the owner decided to hold on to this unique piece of history. It's not every day a guy walks into the world-famous gold and silver pawn shop with a contract signed by the Beatles. However, that's exactly what happened back in Season 6, when a seller brought in the original contract from 1962, signed between John, Paul, George, and Pete Best and their manager Brian. The contract outlined the percent Brian would take from all of the Beatles' future royalties, not too shabby 25%. The seller was looking to get a cool $1 million for the uber rare piece of Beatles memorabilia, but upon further inspection it was revealed to only be worth $500,000. Naturally, this meant Rick offered the guy $350,000 for it. In the end, the seller decided to try and get a higher return for the piece at an auction.
That's cash right now. If you don't take that, I would wait for another auction.
I'm gonna have to decline on the $350.
Good luck with it.
I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
When a seller entered Rick Harrison's shop toting Jimi Hendrix 1963 Fender Stratocaster electric guitar, the indomitable salesman was floored. If real, Rick proclaimed that it would be the coolest guitar to ever walk into my shop. Lo and behold, the epic piece of rock and roll history was the real deal, with its auction value estimated at $750,000 to a whopping $1 million. If you watch Pawn Stars, then you know Rick loves nothing more than to lowball customers, so he offered the seller $500,000 for it. Seeing as how it could potentially be worth double that, the seller decided to walk. This 31-ton, 45-foot, car-crunching, fire-breathing monstrosity caught Chumley's eye back in Season 3, so he roped Corey into checking it out. Dubbed Robosaurus, the giant robot dinosaur's owners were asking $1 million for it, stating that you can make 25 grand a day renting it out for various events. Despite the item's wow factor, it's a 4.5-story fire-breathing dragon, people! Corey decides to pass without even bothering to negotiate with the seller. Oh well, looks like Chumley will have to find another car-destroying robot for the shop.
25,000 bucks is a day you can make from this thing when you put it on the road.
Well, let's fire this thing up and see what it does, man.
Told you, Big Hot. This thing is badass.
In 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldwyn were found stabbed to death in Simpson's home. Mr. Simpson was immediately declared a person of interest, but instead of turning himself in, he hopped into a white 1993 Ford Bronco and engaged in the most famous car chase in history. It's estimated that 95 million people watched the chase on TV, making the Ford Bronco as infamous as Simpson himself. So when a seller called up Rick and informed him that he was in possession of the car, Rick had to check it out. Due to its one-of-a-kind nature, the seller was asking $1.3 million for it, a price that was proved way too high for Harrison.
I'm gonna pass on it. Okay.
In season 15, Rick went to see a three-piece suit from the mid-18th century, worn by the first president of the United States, George Washington. The incredible piece of American history was in remarkable condition despite being almost 300 years old. Washington was famously very concerned about how he presented himself to people, so he only wore the finest clothing at all times. The silk suit may look dumpy now, but back in the 18th century, it was bright pink, making for a truly impressive fashion statement. In the words of the seller, everything has a price, and this item's price was a cool $3 million. Rick tried to get him to go lower, but the best the seller would do was $2.5 million. Better luck next time, Rick.